validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
Gentlemen, welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Sander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. We are tiptoeing through a little bit of glitchiness right now. Apparently, there's some weather going on, about to start pouring down rain around this bitch. Oh, let me change this up a bit. All right, now we're going to stress it out. Full screen, y'all, full screen. Okay, so welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Scratch Man says, huh? Huh, what? How do you say, huh? When a live podcast go live, you make it seem like, something didn't get answered. I don't get it. Either way, we go live 7 nights a week, and we do not always, well, we never let the sun rise without going live, but we don't always start on time. We should have started about 11 minutes ago, but, things happen. We were working through some glitches and stuff, and it looks like we're still working through some glitches right now with the fiber optics that we got going on with the bad weather outside. Either way, this is the reasons why we tell you guys to like and subscribe, match those reaction buttons while you're here, and then also hit the notification button so that you can be updated on the things that we've got going on the show throughout the week. Now, being live 7 nights a week, we've got Sunday, where questions and comments from the fans. Monday, We have how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. Tuesdays, different ways to make, save, and invest money. Wednesdays, today, we talk about different countries around the world that you can invest in and potentially live in. And today we're going to be talking about Honduras. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is social improvement, personal development, relationship topics, socializations, negotiations, building your brand, raises, promotions, uh, severance packages, termination, forced termination, forced retirement, really. And then we look at how to build your 20 or 30-year plan. So we try to get you guys the music threw you off. How does the music throw you off? That's weird because it's a live podcast. There's an intro music, and then it goes to the show. I don't understand how that throws you off. Either way, we're gonna be talking about some ways that we can make, save, and invest money. Steven says we need a day to discuss how to make money fall out of the sky and land in our pockets. That's the information I need. Well, I would love to do that. Um, the closest thing that we can get to money falling out of the sky, figuratively speaking, because literally it cannot happen. Uh, we would potentially have to invest in things that would make money for us, so that we would be getting paid without having to put in extra effort to get paid, which is what we were talking about with Stephen uh, last yesterday, as a matter of fact. And that is one of the reasons why I give you guys all of these different ways to like automate a business online, start up by playing towards the conveniences of others, profiting off of pain points of people's industries and stuff to that effect, stuff that has not been automated by AI, where you can automate it with your own AI software. And that's kind of like some of the ways that we can caveman style kind of like make it rain on ourselves, because instead of us getting paid for our presence, money will be coming towards us without us having to put any effort in. And you know what, Stephen, you're a college student, so here's one that you're gonna love. And I just came across this this week, and then I'm gonna get on these other two comments. Um, I just discovered that students like detailed notes, and they will pay for detailed notes. So if any subject that you have ever taken detailed notes on, you could potentially create a PDF file that, and I don't know how to do this in detail, but theoretically speaking, you can create a file that it's like a downloadable link. And what you do is you sell access to notes. And the way it works is that any notes that you've ever taken for any class that is thorough and structured, especially for people who are too lazy to take notes, and you can sell it, even if you doesn't matter how much you sell it for, it could be sold for a small quantity of money, $5 or $10 for notes, or if it's extensive notes for a very detailed class, it could be a little bit more than that. But if you're selling the notes where people who need notes for a class just click a link and pay for it, you could potentially turn over a large revenue with no effort, because you've already taken notes yourself, you've digitized the notes, and then you're selling those notes online. And if you're anything like me, when I was in college, I only took my notes on computer. I didn't write any notes down by hand. So I already have the file, which means that you could just organize the notes using AI software that potentially would put more notes in there for you and expand it in more detail. The only thing I would need to know how to do to put that into action, and you can figure this out for yourself, is to modify it to a downloadable link where it is pay per access downloadable link, and then put it up on a website and start promoting it, and do it for all the subjects. And you'll make money for yourself, where you don't have to do nothing besides collect a paycheck. That's one way that you can make money fall out of the sky since you're a college student. He says, hello from Sweden. We believe in basic human rights. So a standard medical appointment slash procedure only costs around $25. How about that? Uh, I don't have a comment on that, because I mean, it depends on whether we've already covered Sweden on the show. And when we cover Sweden on the show, we talked about all of the fascinating things that Sweden got going on that America doesn't have. So we've promoted Sweden a lot. and a lot of the countries around Sweden. But I don't really have a positive or negative thing to say about the fact that you guys have way better medical care coverage than America. Uh, but we also understand that Sweden has a higher cost of living than what some people are capable of achieving as foreigners. So, you got to kind of get in where you fit in when it comes down to moving to another country just for the medical benefits. But we do talk about different countries like Sweden and covering ways where people can potentially make money and live there and be able to do it affordably. Scratch says that was heavy metal. Now investments. Yes, because that is the theme song of the show. And I kind of have like a heavy metal background in my history. Some rap, some R&B, but I also like heavy metal. And the lyrics of the song actually encourages you to focus on getting to a higher ground, getting to a higher level, establishing a self-sustainable situation instead of looking for external glory. And the lyrics are very powerful lyrics, and I think that they very much highlight everything about the show if you listen to the lyrics. So it's not just jamming to the beat, but you can, because we do have the links in some of the descriptions for some of the shows. I haven't been putting them into the descriptions recently, but Higher Ground is the name of the song, and you can definitely get it on YouTube. Uh, and I think it's actually for sale in some other places. He says, Stevens, bro. No, most of us are, bro. Cheaper to buy the test. Actually, it's not cheaper to buy the test. And reason being is because somebody has to steal the test from the teacher for the active test that's happening this year, and then use that test to sell to other people for profit, which can get you in trouble. If you're using an outdated test, that's equivalent to a study guide, and an outdated test that has similar questions to the upcoming test that is not the upcoming test is the same as curating detailed notes that has all of the information that a student would need to have so that they can memorize the majority of information and then use that information to go into take a test. So that makes that. So I mean, yeah, if you're trying to cut corners and cheat to get through college, then yeah, it's probably better to buy the test. But I think that if you're really trying to learn something, then it's better to buy the notes and then study. He said, well, I'm going to go see if I hit the Powerball while you're talking about investments. Well, that's a bad financial investment in and of itself. Reason being is because there is, at least here in America, well over 350 million Americans. And out of them, I want to say that at least 345 million Americans have the probability of playing the lottery. Your ability to be one in well over 300 million people to hit that jackpot means that the likelihood for every ticket that you buy of succeeding is far less than 0.0001%, which means that the probability of failure is so high, so immense, that it is more volatile to play lottery than it would be to invest in anything. You would actually be safer riding stocks with Bitcoin than you would be riding the lottery. But anybody, I would prefer for somebody to walk away from a show that's going to show you how to improve your life than to stay on a show and heckle the show and try to interfere with the show for all the people that came to learn. So if you're out because this isn't what you thought it was, I greatly appreciate you dipping. But if you find value in it, make sure that you like and subscribe, because we're probably going to be on your For You channel again since we just got started, and it looks like we might be here for about an hour and 20 minutes. He said, Sweden is one of the happiest places to live. I can't say that. I can say that Sweden does have a policy that has a lot of government support for the middle and lower income families, uh, that is offset by the higher taxation rates. So while they're taxed way more than what we're taxed on a day-to-day basis, the fact is that there's a lot more government services that comes through and produces uh, a lot of the provisions that people need to sustain themselves. I don't know what the tax rates are in China and Seoul and South Korea, other places like Taipei or Thailand or Taiwan or whatever. But I do know that with the child care thing for the birth crisis that's in Asia, there's a lot of countries out there that is subsidizing child care, and that is a big benefit, and they did not increase taxation in order to do that. So if you wanted to have a bunch of children and not have to deal with the extra cost, going to Asia and having kids or going to Korea and having kids is probably one of the better things to do, because that's the only countries besides Canada that subsidizes child care in order for you to have a better standard of living for your kids. And as an American expat, if you get a local woman, a native woman, to give birth to your kids, then your kids are covered. Now, how does that work with getting your kids citizenship in America? There's a lot of red tape, but if your kid has 18 years before it really matters, you could do it. You could do it, and it's less difficult if it's a child of a Native American, not Native American, but American Native, where you're the parent of the child, you've been born raised in the country, your child was born outside of the country, and you want to get them like dual citizenship or some stuff. There's some possibilities for it, but it's stuff to do. So you have to decide: do you want your kid to do you want free health care or free child care in another country and then get citizenship in America, or do you want to get that Trump account in America and not get the free health care? That's like the two choices that you decide as to which country do I give birth in, right? But as far as for the, Sweden's better, Sweden's the happiest place on America. Everyone wants to go to America. I don't know why, but everybody wants to go to America. America is 10 times more expensive than most places. Places we can find ultimately 30% cheaper. Well, not 30% cheaper, 30% of the cost of being in America. So while like $100,000 might get us so far in America, $30,000 will get us in a lot of other places, which is why I show you guys how $36,000 a year, which is $3,000 a month, can have you live a middle or upper middle class lifestyle in most countries around the world, where $55,000 a year in America, you are struggling financially. So everybody comes here. I don't know why, but I think that just like people used to say in the 80s and 90s that milk does a body good, and everybody drinks milk because they believe it's good for them when it's never been proven medically. America is the greatest place to be because people say it is, not because it is. All right. Michael says the odds of winning is 0.00000 if you don't play. Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm still not wasting my money on the probability of winning. Is that? But I agree, not a great investment. It is a terrible investment. It is a terrible investment. Um, there are real quick before we get started. There are some government coins that I'm going to be talking about coming soon, because the U.S. Mint has been doing some stuff to promote the 250th anniversary of the United States existence in establishment. So I'm going to be looking at what coins they got going on, because I've specifically seen Donald Trump talking about some of the coins in a press conference. So I want to see what those coins got going on. We've already covered how they don't necessarily help with the economy. They're more collectible items, but they are more to the magnitude of, oh, so we have a heckler here that says leave our country. Well, it's about my country as it is your country, sister. So I mean, no, let me put this up here on the screen so you guys can see what I got going on here. It says leave our country. I mean, my ancestors didn't volunteer to come here in the first place. So it's not like it hurts my feelings when you say that. But fiscally speaking, um, you and other people with your mentality probably belong in this country less than people like me, because me and other people that come to this channel actually spend more time saying, hey, the stuff that Donald Trump is doing, I can benefit from it. Let me change the way I operate so that I can take advantage of what he does, instead of saying that something's wrong with Donald Trump, or effectively doubling down and saying something's wrong with the Democratic Party. But I also recognize from a capitalist perspective that if you're going to be making financial decisions, it makes more sense for you to make a financial decision based on how it benefits you, not how other people judge you when you do what you do. So when I tell you, oh, if you want to save money on childcare, go to another country, save money on childcare, and then bring your kid back and get citizenship, That would be a fiscally responsible thing to do if you got certain countries that will pay for 50 to 100% of your child care, regardless of your income status. And you're not sitting there with like this big ass child support bill versus in America where you pay for your own kid. I mean, you can have 5 kids in most countries in Asia, and the cost of living would be the cost of the two adults. I mean, unless you're doing luxury stuff, but you know, if one person can live in Asia for less than $800 a month, and two people can live in Asia for like 14 or $1,500 a month, and two people with 3 kids can live in Asia with 14 or $1,500 a month, same standard of living because the government's paying for the kids. Wouldn't that make sense to go to another country and raise a family, then bring them back? Because technically speaking, when you start talking about making, saving, and investing money, the saving money part, because ultimately each child in America costs you about $22,000 to $25,000 a year. You have 3 kids, that's $75,000 a year. Then you and your wife is another $25,000 or $30,000 a year. That's $110,000 a year. But if you can survive in Asia in a middle class lifestyle off of $10,000 a year for a family of 5 and nobody's struggling, wait, that means the other $110,000 a year could be making money, make money for you. That's called geo arbitrage, meaning that you're going to be making that $120,000 a year US dollars from whatever it is that you're investing in, making money in off of your computer or whatever, and living in a country that allows for you to only spend $10,000 of that every year, where you're profiting $110,000 a year on the lack of requirement for your standard living. So you tell me, leave our country. But what logic do you have behind that? Because you don't like what I have to say? Because so far we've been on the show, and all we said is um, Sweden has more government support with higher taxation. Asia has more child care, and it's not a good idea to invest in lottery. In the 22 minutes we've been here. So how did I hurt your feelings with the 3 topics? Because that's the only reason why I would be on your For You page for you to come and try to trigger. And I'm gonna leave it open for you. I'm not even gonna block you on that comment. I really want to know how do you justify telling me to leave the country? And while I wait for you to respond, we're going to go ahead and get started on some of the other stuff because, like I was saying, Trump was talking about some coins that were being released for the 250th anniversary of our country's thing. It's not going to improve our economy. It's not going to contribute towards inflation. It's specifically going to tiptoe around commemorative coins. I'm not sure if they're going to effectively be sold somewhere or if they're just going to be distributed by the local bank. But if they are going to be distributed by the local banks, it's going to be on demand. So you'll have to go to the banks with currency and request these coins from the banks if you don't have to buy them from a specific mint that's producing them so that you can have these commemorative coins. Um, if the government's selling the coins, then that's another way for the government to turn profits off of the money. But if they're trading it to you, you are just taking your capital gains and switching it out for a non-profitable item. Well, non-profitable this year because anything that happens now while the guy is still alive becomes highly valuable after he's dead. And that's something that happens to everybody. Anybody famous does something while they're alive. When they die, the physical assets become expensive. So $250 bills that has Donald Trump's face on it, if that were to occur, any type of memorabilia from Donald Trump's presidency, if that memorabilia was in your possession after he died, and he's old right now. He's like late 80s, early 90s kind of thing. He's old, so he ain't got more than a decade left. So if you held on to it until he passed away, any Trump supporters that are still around after he passed is going to be willing to buy it off of you, just like they were willing to buy those $400 Confederate flag shoes for $9,000. So it would be a massive investment if you're doing it as a collector to say that you're going to buy something, hold it till after the guy dies, put it up on eBay, sell it to the highest bidder. That would work. Now, just to get it for the sake of having it, just to get it for the sake of, water cooler, just for the sake of being able to flash these bills at certain cash registers and certain restaurants and certain political groups, it's a waste of money. That's what I'm saying. I tell you guys about everything, not just the Trump stuff, everything, cars, clothes, anything that you get for the sake of impressing somebody else, that's a waste of money. Because once the novelty of that item wears off, it no longer serves a purpose and the money is spent and it is no longer generating revenue for you. So it's a waste of money. He said Trump could live to 122. He's in really good health, but I can't say that he would live to be 122. He's a billionaire, so he could have the kind of medical treatment that could potentially make that happen. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying that it's highly unlikely. But Joe Biden is still alive and he's in his 90s. So I believe wholeheartedly that Donald Trump would live to be older than Joe Biden. Whenever Joe Biden dies, I believe that Donald Trump is capable, outside of assassination, to live beyond Joe Biden's age by 2 to 5 years. So Biden's in his early 90s. I believe that it is possible for Trump to survive until his mid to late 90s. I still not seeing an average age of 100 years old and fully functional. I still not seeing that believe that the president would naturally live to be over 100 years old. I don't think it's possible right now, but I'm not saying it's completely impossible. The oldest living human on Earth. No, the oldest living human on Earth in history. Now, he might be the oldest living human on Earth today if he managed to do that and still be alive. But the oldest living human on Earth in history that I remember, because there might be one that's older than that, was 130 years old. That's the guy that I talk to you guys about on a regular basis that made the 209 kids during slavery, where he was for the first 200 kids he was in slavery, and then he had 9 kids after slavery after he was released. I don't know what age he was released at, but 130 years old is how old he was able to live during some of the toughest times in our economy. So in modern times, would it be possible for somebody to make it to 140 or 150 years old? Yes, if they have a very good standard of living that is providing them with a lot of the comforts that the average person doesn't have when they're struggling from paycheck to paycheck, with the idle stress that lingers over them and prevents them from being successful. So a billionaire has the full capabilities to be one of the oldest living modern day elders of our time. And Trump is still, like I said, he's still in good health with good mental capacity. So I believe that he would be able to outdo Joe Biden. I just don't believe that, right now with the way things look, I don't have the foreshadowing capabilities to see 122 years old. 97 maybe, 104. I don't know. I don't really see 100, but 97 maybe, because he is still in a very stressful job being a president of the United States. He just doesn't have as much daily stress in his personal life that we do. I don't know what his personal life is like, but because billionaires have different kind of stress as broke folks, but he has enough stress um, in his position as president that I believe that, especially if he does a third term, that he won't finish that 4 years. It'll be natural causes. In my personal opinion, the stress will take him out. In my personal opinion, but I don't have any facts to support that though. Now, today we're supposed to be talking about Honduras. So for $100 a day, you can live in a life that is. Oh, there goes the FX trader. He says you can live a life that is stuck in traffic, knowing most of your paycheck vanished before it even lands, or for that same $100 a day, you can wake up to the sun, deciding between the beach and mountains, and feeling total financial peace. Now, since the choice is yours, we're gonna be getting into that real quick. What if I told you that the life that you're grinding for right now, the financial freedom, the respect, a beautiful traditional partner who shares your values is waiting for you right now in a different place that you probably overlook. Place the media loves to misunderstand. It's not America. We're going to get into it. Trader says, without getting emotional about the country, the fact remains that about 20 million Americans cannot afford a comfortable retirement in the United States. Thank you. And that's what we talk about on a regular basis when this one guy come up here and I'm gonna put his comment back up there, Trader. He changed his name to Trump is America, right? And he tells me to leave our country because I'm talking about like, man, you can go other places and live a more effective lifestyle on the same smaller income in like different countries in Asia. And like, leave our country. And I'm like, I heard his feelings. Within the first like 20 minutes of the show, I heard his feelings. Didn't even say anything about Trump, but I heard his feelings. But yes, that's the truth. More than 20 million Americans cannot afford a comfortable retirement in the United States. And it's crazy that with that many people not being able to retire, it is a capitalist country. It is not the government's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not Elon Musk's fault. It's not Walmart's fault. Special shout out to Sterling. It's not, it's the fault of generational lack of financial knowledge, the lack of financial literacy. And we go to work, we work paycheck to paycheck, we spend money paycheck to paycheck. We need or want so many different things in a short period of time that we spend all of the money coming in before we have more money coming in. We're banking on what if this one big payday comes in soon, hoping that that big payday can cover the spread. We're hoping for some kind of settlement or closure or hitting a lottery or something to that effect that'll change our financial situation so that we don't have to put in the effort to change our financial situation while we recognize that a change in our financial situation is necessary for us to improve our standard of living. But with lifestyle creep, if we spend more money on more commodities that makes us feel more important, it increases our base standard of living. And the problem with that is going to be is that we're still going to be living paycheck to paycheck. So you could win the lottery, you could be a millionaire and now have $1 million a year budget, but you're spending the principal of that $1 million, you'd be broke inside of 2 years. However, you could get that $1 million, you could make $200,000 a year off of that $1 million just by investing in REITs at 20% return on investment, or making close to $100,000 a year, getting 10% on average across your portfolio, where you're living a $55,000 or $60,000 a year lifestyle with $40,000 a year to reinvest to offset inflation, where you will never have to work again. The difference is the mentality and the mindset. One mentality is a type of person that is willing to spend the money that it takes to impress society so that he or she can get praise as they travel from place to place for looking rich based on how much money they spend, while the other person has the financial freedom, the freedom from stress. They have the confidence of knowing that the things that they want, as well as the things that they need within reason, are covered by the standard of living that they are providing for themselves, where they no longer have to beg, borrow, or steal, and they can live a comfortable life. The latter person is the person that can get $1 million and never have to work again, and potentially $1 million into multiple millions of dollars. The former person is the kind of person that'll get $1 million and within a year to 2 years will not only be broke, but be borrowing money from other people and going bankrupt and everything to that effect and starting over. I would prefer to be the person that never needs to work again. Okay. He says, 8 billion people on earth and you can't find love. That's actually not true, because desire, the the emotional attachment. So first and foremost, we've already discussed this on the show a couple of different times, is that a lot of people misread the anxiety they have when they bond with another person because it's fear of being judged by somebody else, a fear of rejection, as the butterflies in your stomach that is identified as loving someone else. You have the emotional bond and you have the loyalty and duty that develops from interactions with one another, and you choose to stay with this person, whether you love them or not, whether those butterflies are there or not, whether the anxiety is there or not, and you choose to stay there and you identify that choice as love. Now, can you, out of 8 billion people, find somebody to spend the rest of your life with? Yes, you can. Will you successfully maintain a relationship with that partner for the rest of your life? That depends. If you decide on what you're getting into the relationship for, whether it is a long term lifestyle of satisfaction or short term gratification, determines whether or not the person is going to be there for the long haul. If you're with this person to get laid, the forever is not taken into consideration. If you're in this for the forever, getting laid is not part of the consideration. It's expected, but it's not part of the consideration. You find that a lot of people are, we talked about this before, attracted to a specific type that might not be the type that's in their benefit. So, under that dynamic, you would more to the magnitude have to find yourself dating somebody that is not your type, someone that you are not used to, someone that you may not be attracted to, because the people that you are attracted to are toxic. So you need to go and date someone that is not toxic, which means you need to date someone that you are not attracted to, and then learn to love them. Right now, when we start talking about learning to love someone, not just automatically, instinctively loving somebody, now you're looking at the fact that out of 8 billion people, you choose to not be willing to learn to love the right person that will aid you in your ability to reach the goals of success in your life that you have destined yourself for, which is a self fulfilling prophecy. So, like the people who say I'm single by choice, you're not single by choice. The people you want don't want you, and the people that want you, you don't want. That's why you're single. That's not single by choice. It is the fact that you are rejecting all of the potential suitors that could build a great life for you. And then you're chasing all of the suitors that do not want to have a great life with you, which is a self fulfilling prophecy, right? And out of 8 billion people on the planet, you can fall in love over 150 times naturally in your life, which is, depending on your lifespan, like 3 times a year. So is it possible for you to get with the right person and make things better for yourself and that partner, and y'all have a family together and y'all build a legacy together? Of course. Because at 3 different loves a year, you're talking about every 4 months. You could have found the right person. You just chose not to. And by that being a conscious choice, it's a self fulfilling prophecy of loneliness, not actually the inability to find it. You're rejecting it. That's what you're doing. It's not the inability to find it. And the modern day dating apps is going to make the situation worse because you're going to scroll left on all of the ones that match your expectations. You're going to ignore the comments and ghost the people that do not meet your expectations. You're being shown to people that are scrolling left on you. And if you match with somebody, that person only liked your photo in novelty, not because that person was interested in who you are or could give two shits about what you're planning on doing with your life. Because you have some people who window shop on social media the way we window shop in the grocery stores, we window shop with online stuff, we put stuff in the cart and never buy it kind of thing. You got people on dating apps that window shop. They have no intention of actually hooking up with somebody or having a long-term relationship with somebody, but they flip through and look at the possibilities that are out there. And oh, this picture's nice, this picture's nice, this picture's nice. I like this bio. And then they get off of the server and go on about their day because their dopamine hit was acknowledging that they have options, not actually pursuing those options. And a lot of people do this with their jobs. A lot of people know that they hate their job. And instead of building a transitional catalyst to a better job or at least another job, They stay on the job that they don't like until they get fired off of that job. And if they ever talk about getting another job, your friends can help you find another job, your girlfriend, your family members, everybody can help you find another job. And the problem is you work too much on the job that you hate to transition into the job that you don't hate. It's all about choice. So, with that being said, in tonight's show, I'm going to be showing you guys with real numbers and facts how $3,000 a month can uh, uh, help you guys explode, because it's just scraps in places like the United States and Europe and Switzerland, but it can transform your life in Honduras. Now, we're going to pull back yet another curtain and find out, is this one of the last places in the Americas to find a truly traditional family oriented partner? Because, I mean, we can find them in Southeast Asia, South Korea, but can we find them in some of the Americas? So if you're tired of the endless grind and the dating scenes that feel broken, I want you guys to stick with me. Make sure that you mash those reaction buttons while you're here, because what I'm about to share might just change your future. Now, before we get to the paradise part, let's get real about the situation that so many of you are in. That number is a $3,000 a month income. For some of y'all, it's a lot less, and for some of y'all, it's a little bit more. After tax, it's a respectable figure. But what does it actually get you in a city like Denver, Colorado, or Toronto, or Manchester, right? Your $3,000 comes in. First thing you're going to have is rent. You're easily, in most places in America, $1,800 to $2,000 a month for a tiny one-bedroom apartment. Somewhere in middle America, you might be able to find for $950 to $1,500 a month a two-bedroom apartment for like 700 square feet. The smaller the apartment, the cheaper it might be, because typically it's like $1 to $1.50 per square foot is what you'll usually see. But in some places, it might be closer to $1.75 per square foot. So you might see 1,000 square foot apartment for $1,750. And then you might see a 700 square foot or 800 square foot apartment, 650 square foot apartment closer to $900. That's why, because real estate is going to be doing a dollar per dollar average per square foot, not just all of the amenities in the complex. And all of the amenities in the complex does contribute to the price of the unit. But for the most part, it's a per square foot scenario. So you can actually compare what the average cost of living is in one city versus what it would be in another city based on the national average per square foot. And then look at the square footage of the available units in those areas and be like, sheesh, most of these places, $1,800 to $2,000 for a very small place. And that's a 45-minute commute away from anything interesting. It's going to be a skybox that, just like anything else, 2/3 of your income is going to be gone. But the bills don't stop there, because you still got your utilities. We understand that it's far higher than this, but what if it was a conservative $200 a month with another $80 for internet, and the phone bill's like $70, car insurance and gas, soul crushing $500 a month. Before you bought a single carton of eggs, you're down to maybe about $350 for the entire month. No entertainment. You haven't covered the food. You haven't covered your health. You haven't covered anything. No social life or nothing. And God forbid, call yourself trying to save. So if you go to the grocery store, a single bag of healthy foods might cost $100, and it's gone in 3 days. You see the price of steak and you just laugh. Chicken breast is the new luxury these days. Steven's on chicken wings right now. You're going to find yourself living on rice and pasta, black beans, pinto beans, lentil beans, any kind of bean. Right? Maybe you might treat yourself to one night out a month if you're lucky, couple drinks, a mediocre burger, and a $70 bill that feels like a punch in the gut. Check your banking app on the way home and feel that familiar anxiety creep. I got to tell y'all, this isn't living. This is the American dream, but this isn't living. It is surviving. And I tell you guys on a regular basis that this is that type of hamster wheel that keeps speeding up without ever getting you anywhere new. You're doing everything that you're supposed to do. You work hard, you're responsible, but for what? A life of quiet desperation where your biggest thrill is seeing if you have enough left over for another streaming service. It's a system designed to keep you stressed and distracted. It's a life where you are a cog in the wheel, not the king of your own castle. And that constant financial pressure bleeds into everything else that you do, especially your relationships. Now let's talk about dating. Let's talk about that because I know we touched on it a little bit earlier. Let's talk about it. How can you even think about building a real relationship with someone when you're constantly worried about money? One of the reasons why men have backed out of the dating game is a two-part process. One, the women are greedy with unrealistic expectations. And two, instinctively, some men recognize that if they barely can take care of themselves, they definitely cannot unilaterally take care of someone else. And God forbid, add children to the fold. So they choose not to enter the dating field because they know that they do not have the capabilities of sustaining that type of lifestyle or satisfying the expectations of the female. We also, back to the first half, recognize that there are a lot of especially the broke women that are more fixated on a man making 75% more money than she does. So if she's 60,000 a year, she's expecting him to be upward of a 100,000 or $120,000 a year. She's less willing to accept a 50 or $40,000 a year man because he has to make at least as much money as her, if not more money than her. And the expectation that a lot of women will say, while they are willing to accept less, they say that they want $100,000 a year man, but none of them are willing to build that $100,000 a year man. And there's more than 76% of Americans that are not $100,000 a year individuals, men and women alike. So that puts us in a compromising situation where a lot of men back away from the dating field because outside of wasting a little extra money for a one night stand, a jump off, a hit it and quit it kind of situation, getting yourself into a serious long term relationship is financially impossible under the current economics. And it is socially impossible under the unrealistic high expectations from the modern everyday woman that is unwilling to contribute the other half. Yes, ladies, I took shots. Feel free to comment. He said, if all I have to do is make $100,000 to raise kids that are not mine and get cheated on by a woman with no ambition, sign me up. but that's the thing. That's the thing. So they were willing to have children for a guy that doesn't make $100,000 a year. They were willing to do it for free before. Now they got two, three kids, and now you, the good guy, now has to meet this unrealistic hurdle of being $100,000 a year man so that you can support children that aren't yours with a woman that's willing to leave you for a man that's making 105,000. It makes no sense. And we're in an economic situation, we're in a cultural situation where they're not willing to be partners. They're willing to be dictators of a relationship if they find a guy that is willing to simp on their situation. So if you did make $100,000 a year and you got a modern 2026 Western style behavior, you're more often than not going to have a girl that's willing to spend your money and tell you what to do, not respect what you say, and follow your instructions. And while a lot of women feel like feminist model, we shouldn't have to do that. It my body, my choice. As soon as you become a dependent of somebody else, it is not your choice. Because unilaterally speaking, a child is the dependent of the mom when mom has custody of the kids. And when the child is the dependent of the mom, the child doesn't tell the mom what to do. The child depends on the entire income and resources and standard of living of the mom. Mom tells the child what to do. When the boyfriend takes that role, when the husband takes that role where the wife and the girlfriend is living in the house of and under the status and financial income of the dude. She is a dependent of the dude. And likewise, the dependent does not tell the provider what to do. The dependent follows instructions. And this is going to be where the feminist model creeps in again. And women are only willing to put up 50% so that they're not considered a dependent. But then they still want to be lavish. They still want to be taken out. They still want to be treated in addition to paying the bills. If we have a $3,000 a year, a $3,000 a month lifestyle, and we come together, if we each individually have a $3,000 a month lifestyle, and we come together, we likely have a $4,500 a year lifestyle together because typically it's 150% when you move in. Now, what that's going to mean is that let's round it up to $5,000, right? She's going to put up 2,500. I'm going to put up 2,500 out of if we were making, say, $4,000 a piece, right? Which will leave each one of us with close to $1,500 a month left over, right? Now, my $1,500 a month would go towards making her happy. Her $1,500 a month would go towards making her happy. And then when the children are born, her $1,500 a month extra would go towards the kids, and my $1,500 a month extra would go towards her and the kids. Now, if out of the $2,500 a month that she contributed into the household, she's going to get reimbursed $1,500 a month, she's only putting up $1,000 out of the $5,000, which is 1/5, which is 20%. And that means that the person with 80% contribution has a larger majority vote because he's a primary shareholder of the estate of this family, which means that she is still a dependent, even though she's paying 50% of the bills, because she's getting 100% of her luxuries from him, subsidizing her standard of living, which ultimately means she's still a dependent because he could have paid for all of the bills and just not bought her shit. And she would still be living in his house with no responsibilities and keeping all of her money for her own fun. Women don't like listening to this stuff, but this is the real deal Holyfield. So how are you supposed to feel like a provider, a man of value, when you're living from paycheck to paycheck in an environment like this? And it's going to get a lot deeper than that because for a lot of us, the dating scene in the Western culture just feels broken, exactly the way I just explained it. It's going to be a game with constant changing rules where no one is on the same team. Be strong, but not too strong. Be sensitive, but not weak. The goalposts are always moving and you never know where you're aiming. You get on the apps and it's a meat market of curated profiles and thinly veiled demands where nobody really says what they want. They put up some bullshit on social media and most people don't even read what they put up. We just look at the picture and then like, favorite, link, whatever, and then message. That's it. That's it. If we go through the bio, we're not reading what they wrote. We're reading what their height is. We're reading what their weight is, whether or not they have kids, whether or not they drink and smoke, if we care about their religion, if we care about their income, if we care about their dating status. That's the shit we're looking at, not what they say they want. Most people don't give a shit about that. We actually asked that question on the first date, which is wild. If you're asking me what I'm looking for, you clearly didn't read my bio. The culture of endless options creates a culture of zero commitment. Why invest in one person when 1,000 more are just a swipe away? Dates feel like a job interview where you're just checking boxes instead of actual connections. And if you're a man who holds traditional values, if you believe in commitment, family, and a partnership where a man provides and a woman nurtures, where the man leads and a woman follows, you're often made to feel like a dinosaur because you're told that those values are outdated or even toxic in a lot of situations, and it can make you feel incredibly lonely. Like the partnership you want, built on loyalty and shared family goals, is just a fantasy. Now you start to wonder, is it me? Am I crazy? You know, should I not be wanting a partner who sees family as a foundation of life, not just as an accessory? You look around, you see relationships based on convenience and temporary interest. And I tell y'all this on a regular basis. This is why they last for less than a year and a half. It feels hollow. You crave something real and long lasting, but it's relationships that are seasonal, right? So you got this perfect storm of financial systems that drains your spirits and a dating culture that feels emotionally empty. It's no wonder that so many guys are checking out. Special shout out to the passport bros because you're looking for another way, right? So, if the cost of living is crushing you and the dating pool feels toxic, what's going to be the alternative? What if the solution isn't a new app or a new city, but a new country? Just like your boy came up out of nowhere and was like, get out of my country. All right. A country where the economic equation is going to be flipped in your favor and a culture that is aligned with the values that you're looking for. What if the situation would be a place like Honduras? Let's take a look at that particular type of situation. Let's look at that as a solution for tonight. Take that same $3,000 a month budget that was choking you back in America, and let's see what it can unlock in Honduras. And this isn't about being comfortable, it is about a total life transformation. So let's anchor this with the facts because while you can find budget estimates for a single person as low as $700 a month to $1,300 a month for the whole standard living, a more realistic budget for a comfortable lifestyle in a desirable area is going to be closer to $1,500 to $2,500. And reason being is because when you start looking at the cheapest ways to go, you are thinking about living like a native. All right. And that's going to be way different. That's going to be a huge cultural shock. You have what they call Western style, where we have toilets that are chairs. We have rooms with beds off of the floor. We have central air and heat, Western style living. Other countries, they got box fans, window units, pooping through a hole in the floor, outhouses, showering in public. The difference between the social media projections of 700 to $1,300 a month versus realistic, not changing very many of your Western style desires being a lot more than that. And that's why we're going to be looking at 1,500 to $2,500 a month. So with a $3,000 a month budget, you're not just getting by, you're entering the upper tier of lifestyle in the country. And one of the things we have to recognize is that, again, people are going to say, since America is like 130 something on every category of best country in the world, we also recognize that the quality of living in America for the price is still better than the quality of living in other countries. So we will with I know that China and Hong Kong are like really techy and they're very efficient uh for a lot of reasons because there's a larger quantity of people in a small place. But we have to recognize that the standard of living that we consider poor in America, $30,000 a year to $50,000 a year, is considered the upper middle class or lower upper class in most countries around the world. So we're rich ish. It's just that we're so rich that we live from paycheck to paycheck because our lifestyle creep allows us to spend more money than we make. Not that we don't make enough, it's just that we spend too much of it. So let's break down this budget. We'll go back to that housing. Remember, I told you about housing in America being anywhere between 1,800 and 2,500 a month just for the housing. Well, forget the tiny apartment because in a city like Tegucigalpa or San Pedro Sula, you'll be looking at a secure gated community. Now, this would have been like HOA style in America, right? Suburbs, right? The same place where expats and diplomats are going to live, and the local upper class are going to be living here. Places like Lomas del Guijaro or Colonia Trejo, places like that. We're going to find a 3-bedroom house for $800. This can happen. We're not finding a 3-bedroom house in America. Typically, with if even if we had like some of the smallest houses in America, where you had 3 bedrooms, at least one bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room, typically 1,500 square feet is some of the smaller ones. Not the smallest, but some of the smaller ones. And a 1,500 square foot apartment, like we said, probably closer to 100 to $1.50 to $1.75 per square foot. Well, you know there's going to be more than 1,750 because it's well over 1,000 square feet. And that's why we're looking at closer to $2,000 for a 3-bedroom house. Now, houses usually cost less than apartments for renting, depending on where you go, because they're further away from all the best stuff in society. But again, for 30% of what you would have paid in America for the same space, you will find in Honduras a place to stay for $800. It's more realistic to expect rent for higher quality houses or apartments in these top tier zones to sometimes start around $900 and go up to $1,500 or more when you're trying to get American style, Western style housing. Because think about this. Think about this. You can get a free house in Japan. You could get the kind of house in Japan that's got self-heating floors, and you can find you pretty decent size, 2,000 square foot, fully renovated place for sometimes $0 down and up to 250,000 US dollars. It just depends on how close to westernized is it. If it's not westernized, if it's a traditional Japanese house, it's probably going to be like 50 to $100,000 US. But and this is one that's been modernized and everything to that effect, not one that's been sitting there for 10 or 20 years. But you think, oh, well, I can get a fully restored, fully renovated $250,000, $500,000, $750,000 house from America in another country. And no, no, it's going to be the same price. It's just going to have a different monetary transition to it. Like, what do they call that? Um, um, exchange rate, right? Just a different exchange rate. But you'll find that the closer you get to higher quality luxury style, the closer you get to Western prices. But even at the high ends, you're likely still going to be paying less than you were for a tiny apartment in America. But now you have a real home instead of apartment. You have a house with a yard, right? Maybe with a guest room, an office, and a 24/7 security guard, right? Now, next, let's talk about this food situation because what's left? set aside, it's like $500 for your monthly budget for food. And this isn't for a life of ramen. This is a budget of abundance. You'll shop at local markets with fresh, cheap produce and buy quality meats from the local butcher. More importantly, this will allow you to eat out regularly. Great three-course meals for two people at a mid-range restaurant that might cost you between $20 and $30 a plate, or in some situations, $20 to $30 for the both of you. You can afford to take a date to a nice restaurant without sweating the bill. So if we look at a beautiful home, great food, and you still have around $1,000 to $1,400 left, if we keep going and start talking about utilities and high-speed internet, this can vary, but for a larger home, especially if you're running the air conditioner, it's wise to budget somewhere between $150 to $250. Private healthcare in Honduras is excellent because they have really good private clinics there. A local private health insurance plan for a younger person, healthier person, might be found for under $150 a month. I tell you guys, find some international health insurance coverage that actually works locally. Because then, when you do go to another country, you don't necessarily have to change anything. If you've got your local Blue Cross, Blue Shield, whatever going on, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever going on right now, first thing you got to do when you start, even if you're traveling as a tourist, you still have to have international health insurance because what happens if something happens to you while you're out there? So now you're paying for two insurance policies, the one that's in America and the one that's in the country that you're going to. So just try to find you one that benefits you here in the States that you can take with you other places. But this cost rises significantly, so that $150 a month might rise significantly with age. Or if you want an international plan with more comprehensive coverages, you might be paying a little bit more than that. But you want to find one that is inside of your budget that more suits exactly what you need and where you're trying to go. Let's talk about getting around. I actually just noticed because we're about to talk about taxis and Ubers because they're very affordable in other countries with base fares for short rides around $3 and a $300 a month budget would be realistic if you're primarily using ride shares. But if you decide to own a car, the amount will likely cover fuel and basic maintenance for a lightly used but not heavy driving vehicle. So I found recently that there are some cities and states where the airports are taxing Uber drivers to pick people up from the airport. I've heard some news about how Uber is not allowing individuals to perform rideshare. Like people are just getting blacklisted for the sake of. I've seen some protests from rideshare people against Uber, and I believe that I'm going to be trying to squeeze that into one of the upcoming shows. Now, while my buddy was doing Uber, and I've tried it, and I've tried Lyft before, but I was doing it as a favor to him. I wasn't doing it as a full time job. Uh, Now that he's not doing Uber, and Uber's got all this stuff going on, it's almost like, you getting fired, probably the best thing that happened to you on that front because you got people right now that are not getting paid anymore by Uber. The things that used to be fucking fantastic 5 years ago are things that are harder to do today. You cannot put 20 years worth of expectations on today's performance. You have to use today's performance to set up the catalyst for tomorrow's expectation. And I know that sounds like a redundant situation, but what I mean is if you today are investing in yet next month, next week, next year's satisfaction, the surplus that you gain from this setup allows for you to invest more heavily in other things that will allow you to have the following year be more satisfactory. You keep doing that until you reach a point in life where you have no longer any stress to worry about. If you're planning for 20 years down the line, thinking that all I have to do is this, fix it and forget it, and 20 years later, I'll be the next Warren Buffett. No, what Warren Buffett did 40 years ago is not something that can be easily replicated while living paycheck to paycheck in 2026. You still have to put your money in places where money makes money for you, right? Now, after all of that, if you've secured your home, food, utilities, healthcare, transportation, you can still have $500 or more left over in Honduras. And this is going to be where your life really changes because you can afford things that were luxuries back in the States. For around $200 to $300 a month, you can hire a domestic helper to come a few times a week to clean and do laundry and even help with meal prep, freeing up hours of your time. And this is also something that you can do in the Philippines because if you went to the Philippines, it'd be a little bit more because $200 to $300 a week for help in Honduras, but like $700 a month for. So technically, when I think about it, it is actually cheaper to do it in. No, it's $200 to $300 a month. That's what I said. $200 to $300 a month for them to come a few times a week, every week and clean up. But in the Philippines, it's like $700 a month, $750 a month, and you got them 30 days a month. They taking care of everything that you need, right? Then America, you can't find that. You can't find that because what you have in America, the prices in America, and this is like legitimate like housekeeping and like home service individuals are between $20 and $35 an hour. So if you're looking at roughly $30 an hour, $300 a month would get you about 10 hours a month worth of housekeeping in the United States. In other countries, you can get you somebody that's knocking out the majority of your responsibilities every day of the week for that same $300. All right. That's a whole lot better for you. The rest of the money that you would have, that would likely be fun money, your travel fund. On the weekends, you can fly to Bay Islands of what is it? Roten? Yeah, Roten. Roatan, Rotan, for world class driving or world class diving. I'm sorry, tired diving. So you can take diving lessons off the island of Rotan, explore the Mayan ruins of Copan, or visit coffee plantations in the mountains. And you're not just living in Honduras, you're experiencing Honduras. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I was traveling across country, I pulled over in Alabama just to stop at a cotton field. It's amazing the whip cracking experience that you have when you stop in a southern state that still has plantations of cotton fields. ah, Math ain't seen me since. Steven says, I'd learn it. I would never let a maid into my living space, no matter how much I made. That is intrusive and I wouldn't like it. Okay, so Steven, if you've ever gone to a hotel and stayed there multiple days in a row and they clean the room while you're not there, then you could have a housekeeper come to your house and clean the house while you're at school, clean the house while you're at work. You personally may not feel comfortable with having, especially with the way that Western women accuse men of all kinds of stuff and demonize the existence of men before a man even says anything. You may not be comfortable with having a woman in your house while you're in your house because you might have a lot of stigma behind, social pressures. But reasonably wealthy individuals buy their time. I do the same thing. But reasonably wealthy individuals buy their time back. For example, I don't deal with the stress of driving. Not me, but wealthy individuals. I don't deal with the stress of driving because I pay a chauffeur, right? I don't deal with the stress of organizing my itinerary because I have a personal assistant. I don't deal with the stress of cooking because I have a chef. I don't deal with the stress of cleaning the house because I have a maid or a housekeeper. I don't deal with the stress of taking care of the yard. I have a landscaper. Notice that's a 5 or 7 or 10 person team that is dealing with your personal life when you can afford to do that so that you don't have to think about those things. Now, since all you got to do is get out of bed, not make it, get dressed. Sometimes you got somebody to help you get dressed. You might even have your private, if you got enough money, you might even have your own private tailor at your house helping you get dressed after you've taken a shower. And then you go sit down and somebody brought you food. You didn't have to think about none of that stuff. All you had to do was get up and go to the kitchen, right? That frees up your mental capacity for decision making so that you can now think about more important things like how to make more money for yourself so that you can have more money to pay these people to do this stuff. So you may not right now because you're still in the mentality of I do it for myself. You are not used to the capabilities of having someone do it for you. But I'm going to be honest with you. Let somebody in an American style scenario getting paid like four, five, $7,000 a month to come over to my house and come and knock it, bro. This motherfucker gonna be doing as much as possible. Find something to do. You got time to lean. You got time to clean something. I'll be pointing out shit. Because if you get paid to be here, you're gonna be doing something, goddamn it. Let me get out of this room so that you can get stuff done in this room while I'm not in this room. There's other rooms in this bitch. You know what I mean? He's at a hotel that do not disturb on the door. Man, I can not only do I have a do not disturb sign on the door, I tell the front desk, do not send anybody to my room unless I request maintenance. Like something broke and I need you to come and fix it. He said, I'll be the millionaire that still mows his own lawn. Oh yeah, like Adam Sandler. I would be the millionaire like Beauty and the Beast, with like 20 people lined up when I walk through the door, being able to greet the staff on the way in. I won't have to touch any doors because there's people paid to touch the door for me. There's so much stuff going on, man. Because at the same time, I would be doing things because if I had those lifestyle levels of millions, I would see myself focusing more on more millions coming in so that I would not have to do and all of these people would still get and that would put me in a position of 10 or 15 million dollars, 20 million dollars in order for me to have $1 million, which is 10% of my money to cover the staff. And that would be living off of the interest. Right now, when we start talking about 20% return on investment or 15% return on investment, we start talking about like $1.5 million. And if my lifestyle is like 60 or 70,000 and $1.5 million, that's a lot of people I can pay to make sure the shit's operating the way it needs to be operated. But that requires me, like I said, $10 million lifestyle, not a simple $1 million lifestyle. Right? $1 million lifestyle might cover just me. $2 million lifestyle might cover me and a couple other people. Big difference. Now, the numbers are going to work here when we're talking about doing this in Honduras. Because again, like if we had a $150,000 a year lifestyle, $200,000 a year lifestyle, not the lifestyle, $200,000 of capital that was getting paid anywhere between 30 and $50,000 a year return on investment, where in places like the Philippines, Honduras, Belarus, Belize, Kazakhstan, special shout out to those countries, you know, that's 50, $60,000 a year, far greater than the $36,000 a year we're talking about right now. And you would have so much extra money lying around that you could afford a guaranteed chauffeur. Because even if you got the direct phone number for like two or three cab guys, before you decide to walk outside and get picked up for some shit, you'll be calling whoever's available to come pick you up and drive you around for the day. And if they know that you're going to pay them more to stick with you than what they would have made looking for rides, now from the time they show up until the time you dismiss them, they're good. The car never leaves. You know, you and in some situations, in some countries, you can turn your cab driver into a personal bodyguard because they'll carry all your stuff and help you out and this, that, and third because it's like shit, you're paying them to do it. And if you have enough money, this is one of those mentalities where you're paying for the convenience of, and some people do not have the value in that type of lifestyle. However, the possibility is what we were talking about today, the fact that it is possible and you could have that lifestyle and you don't need millions of dollars to achieve it. So your $3,000 budget can give you a high quality lifestyle that eliminates financial stress and buys back your time. Now, we've established that you can live well. So let's talk about finding a partner that you can share this with. If we address the part of the title that likely grabbed a lot of people's attention, which is finding a traditional wife, it's critical to approach this topic with respect and nuance. Now, this isn't about transactional relationships because, I mean, truthfully, in Western culture, most relationships are transactional. And you might find some pretty good transactional relationships in the Philippines as well, because, I mean, again, I tell you guys, if you were to cover $750,000 a month for her family's lifestyle in the Philippines, you might have you a lifelong wife, bro. Bro, we're in a live podcast. What are you sleeping while you're talking over here? Anyway, it can be transactional, but we're not talking about transaction, right? We're talking about finding a culture where the values that you hold that are normal in their culture, which is not the exception, right? You're not looking at your values being dismissed or displaced in a culture like this. So, first, we have to recognize that as a foreigner, you're going to be called a gringo. You must act with humility, not self entitlement. So, you're going to have a genuine desire to learn stuff. You want to learn their culture, learn like your location, learn how to get around. The guys who fail here are going to be the ones who show up with a sense of entitlement, thinking that their passport and wallet give them a free pass on being a good person. And they're going to be treating people like shit, thinking that because I'm paying you to take this treatment, that I'm entitled to treat you this way. Don't be that guy. You know, some of the even no matter what country you're in, one of the most important things that you need to remember is that you are judged based on how well you treat the help. So, and they are the help not because that is a lower class or lower value situation. It is because these people are paid to help you do the things that you either don't want to or don't have time to do, which means that they are a benefit or an asset to you because you're buying back your time by paying them to help you. So, out of your respect for them, which you should have, you should treat the help with the utmost respect, not to the magnitude of being subordinate to your assistants, but to the magnitude that you're treating them more than just a human being, to the appreciativeness of them assisting you with accomplishing your goals without distracting you from more important obligations. So, what does traditional mean in Honduras? Well, let's get past the stereotypes of a submissive woman. And I'm going to be honest with you, in most countries around the world, the truly submissive woman is not necessarily going to be there. Westernized culture is saturating every country around the world, and more feminist movements are happening in every country around the world. So while you might have a family oriented woman that is dominantly prioritizing the success of the kids as well as the husband, the truly submissive part of that may not be what you think it is because the woman might actually handle the finances and handle the stressful things that men are expected to handle in Western culture. Where as a husband, you may have to come to your wife and get money from her to take care of things because she's handling everything for you, but that's still an assistance. right? That's still a benefit. It's actually one of the things that made women amazing back in the 60s that they don't want to do in 2026. But you got to recognize that we're not just looking for like a stereotypical submissive woman. It's going to be about a deeply ingrained cultural focus on the family as a center of life, not prioritizing career over family or anything like that. Not prioritizing the sisterhood over family orientation, nothing like that, right? So, in a culture that often prioritizes the individual, Honduran culture tends to prioritize the collective unit. The family's well being is paramount, and this is going to be the entire family, not just the one you're creating, her family, sisters, brothers, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas. Y'all got to understand the family, the extended family, right? So, this is going to shape the dating world profoundly because relationships are often viewed as a step towards marriage and are taken very seriously instead of what we have going on in the Western culture. So while dating and hookup culture does exist there, especially in little expat bubbles, especially in cities uh, and among younger crowds, it's not the dominant paradigm that you're going to see the way you see it in the West. So in some of the major cities, there is a lot of hookup culture that does exist in most countries around the world. And, being a foreigner is a novelty in a lot of those countries. And you do have the curiosity of women that's willing to interact and potentially hook up with you for the sake of being able to say they did that. And if you were traveling temporarily from place to place, passport bros, you might be able to find yourself hooking up with and having short term interactions with a large quantity of women that have that novelty for foreigners. But if you're looking for a long term partner, you're going to be going to places where dating to marry is the primary goal. So many women are going to be looking for stable men who are serious about his intentions, which means you got to know what the fuck you want, right? A life partner, not a temporary playmate. This often is going to be reinforced by strong religious beliefs. As a large portion of the population is supposed to be Catholic and Protestant, which emphasizes traditional values of commitment and loyalty in marriage. So, how do you meet the women in a place like Honduras? It's not going to happen the way it does back home because while dating apps exist, the most respected way to meet a partner is going to be through social connections, which means that you have to leave your hotel and exist in public until somebody's willing to talk to you, get to know that person, which leads to an invite to meeting more people and behave positively around those people so that you are now invited to even more locations until you stumble across a person either by recommendation or reference or in passing, where now society positively promotes you to that person. An introduction from a mutual friend is an instant character reference. And this is going to be why building a genuine social life is going to be key. Not just coming off of a dating app and going over there and like, oh, well, I'm looking for a wife. No, you want to go out there, you want to leave the house, you want to interact with people, you want to be friendly, you want to be courteous, you want to be patient. So while in America, when people do stupid shit in front of you, you want to break their car with a baseball bat. In other countries, when people do stupid shit, they're going to instinctively apologize, and it's going to be like a second action. But you are supposed to instinctively accept the apology, even though it pissed you off, because how the rest of society sees your reaction to the other person's actions will either make or break your reputation before you interact with other people. If you interact disrespectfully to one person in an inconvenience, the people who saw that are either going to hate or fear you before you go and meet anyone else. That puts you in a position where you're less likely to be successful with complete strangers who you haven't met, but they've already met you. Now, Making local friends is going to become a regular thing at cafes, or join a club, not a nightclub, but a group activity. Now, community and church events are also powerful places to meet people with shared values, but this is church events, not Sunday service. Okay. Church events is going to be like the church is hosting a play, the church is putting on a performance at a local location. There's a Easter thing, a Christmas thing, and a Thanksgiving thing, or something to that effect. That's a church event. Or if the church is doing a fundraiser or some type of community service event where they're going to try to make something better for somebody or a group of somebodies in the area, that's a church event. And in those church events, if you're going there as an asset to the church, not a participant in the event, let me help you carry that. Let me help you build that. Get involved kind of thing, like a volunteer, not like a participant in the activities. That'll be a powerful place to meet people with shared values. Because you don't have to be a die-hard Christian, Catholic, Seventh-day Adventist, Baptist, or whatever, going to church every Sunday, giving your 10% to the church, to be a guy that has moral values and an ethical compass that was stemming from a childhood in the church. A lot of us, Gen Xers, baby boomers, and some even Gen Zs, spent the first 5 to 8 years of their life in church. Your moral compass and your ethical values, your ability to not deliberately fuck people over, your ability to deliberately intend on trying to tell the truth at first until you realize that telling the truth will get you in trouble, is the instincts from the moral compass instilled in you from the church. Not a lot of people think that. So you can swear up and down you're atheist, but if you have ethics, you learn those ethics from church before you learn those ethics in college from ethics class. You learn those philosophical values from church before you learn those philosophical values, Aristotle and all those other things, in college, right? So you may not be a practicing religious person, but you do have a religious background. Majority of people do. The lack of ethics, though, the lack of morals, though, you could probably say, yeah, that person probably never seen the inside of a church. But anybody that's like, oh, what about the other person? You probably learned that from last generation's religious background. Just trying to tell you, this is going to be bringing us to the most critical point. In Honduras, you must learn Spanish. And we say that in America, that like when you come to America, you should learn English. And then we help people who come to America who don't know English, and we help them get around and do things so that they don't need to learn English. The fact is, you do not need to be fluent in another country's language as soon as you touch down. But from the time you get there till the time you get used to being around there, you need to learn stuff there and show improvement in your ability to speak the local language. So if you were in Honduras for 2 or 3 years, you should have had 2 years of language, Spanish speaking. You might not be fluent, but you should be reasonably average or above average in articulating in the native language how to get around, right? If you left from Honduras and did 3 years in Japan, out of that 5 years, you've got three countries under your belt, three countries of language. Your native language, the one you were born and raised at, the one that you picked up in Honduras, and then the other one you picked up from Japan. Special shout out to OG Kicks. You cannot build a deep, authentic connection through any type of translation app. Even if you have the translation headphones, where I can put on the headphone and you can put on the headphone and I can talk into the microphone and it'll translate to you, and you can talk into the microphone and translate to me. Those things have a battery life. And if you're spending all day with somebody, that battery life is going to wear down. Even if you carry 2 sets, even if you carry 3 sets, just so that you had enough to cover 12 hours of interactions with other people, you're going to find yourself in a situation where the batteries are going to die. You still need to charge them. And because you cannot translate, no one's there to translate for you, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you are going to have questions that nobody understands to be able to give you an answer for. So you cannot become dependent upon translation headsets or translation glasses or anything to that effect. That's ultimately going to fail you eventually. And then the translations aren't always perfect. But learning the language, it also shows a massive amount of respect, and it proves that your commitment is to integrating into their world, into their culture. Now, I understand if you're going to another country with the intent to bring them back, you're not planning on staying there forever. But even if you're going to another country to find a relocator, your geo arbitrage position still requires you or still expects you to preferably try to learn as much as you can while you're there. So whether you're there for 6 months, whether you're there for a year and a half, you should be trying to learn some stuff during that time frame so that when you come back, that you should have some type of advanced level improved learning that you may not have had before you got there. Now, let's manage some expectations real quick with the various situations that you must be prepared for, which are the possibilities that when you date a Honduran woman, that you're also going to be dating her family. Because remember, in Western culture, we're looking for a family oriented woman that is actually going to prioritize her husband and maybe her children over her job, where the man is supposed to be able to provide for the woman, and the woman, even if she has a job, can do what she can, but she's going to put the kids and the husband first, right? That's not how Western women behave. Western women put self satisfaction, self gratification before the family, and they will sacrifice everything to be happy, and they will destroy their whole livelihood to be excited and thrilled. They will completely blow up a good thing just to make sure that they can feel like they're alive. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. We look for in Western culture, and it's nearly hard to find, but it is possible, the type of woman that will prioritize the husband and the children, no matter how much money she does or does not make. And it is hard to find in Western culture, but in Honduras, it is not hard to find. The what the you don't expect is that she puts her family ahead of you, and she puts you ahead of her career. So while you've got the woman that will prioritize you over the career, you still come second to the family. Okay. That's the part that you got to pay attention to, right? Her family's opinions of you will matter the whole way through. So while you're not an ass kisser, while you're not a brown noser, you do need to make sure that the aunt and uncles and moms and pops and cousins and brothers and sisters and the majority of people, like a congressional vote, actually like your presentation of who you are. Because if you're a dick to anybody in the group and word gets around, family sticks together, the family won't like you because you unnecessarily mistreated one of the people in the family. So you're always going to be on your best behavior. You will be invited to family gatherings early on in your interactions, and you're going to be asked direct questions about your intentions. And with their straightforwardness in a lot of other countries, they're not necessarily going to sugarcoat it and beat around the bush. I don't even have examples of how they might talk to you, but they will be a lot more direct than what we are in America, right? See it for what it is, a sign that they care about her and want to ensure that she's with a good man. Winning them over is going to be a crucial step. Back when we were kids, so that we could take girls out on dates, when we were kids, before the internet existed, before 2009. So that's a long time ago for some of y'all. We would go to the house and behave appropriately and behave more responsibly, and mom and dad would be like, "Oh yeah, this guy, we can count on him to keep our little girl safe." And then now we're able to take the girl all over the world or wherever we could afford to drive because the parents trusted the dude. Modern times, Nobody really does that anymore. But that type of behavior is the type of behavior that's still expected in Honduras. He says, not going to kiss up to any family. I treat people good until I have a reason not to. But that's just basically saying be yourself. So when you're winning over a family, you're not necessarily kissing up to the family. You're not brown nosing and providing false compliments and throwing a bunch of money at them, buying their respect or anything to that effect, buying them a bunch of gifts. That's not winning over the family. Winning over the family is being genuine about your position, being serious about your expectations of the girl that you're with, and respectfully standing on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior with the people around you. But even if you are an antisocial person, you still have to perceivably be social to her family because they are going to judge you and your relationship satisfaction is based on them judging you. So I don't want your family coming over while I'm at work is not the mentality that you can have if you're trying to date to marry. You're going to go to work and come back and have 5 or 7 people there that you weren't expecting to be there that are all literally relatives of this chick. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, instead of you guys figuring things out and going to find something fun to do, she's bringing you to yet another family function to go and meet yet another relative and spending the whole day being entertained by or entertaining relatives. You, as a foreigner, are a lone wolf in a culture that has generational culture of family orientation. So with your lone wolf mentality, you might think, oh, well, I'm not going to do this, and this. But if you are a good person in nature, you're going to be respectful because you're a respectful person. You're not going to unnecessarily insult people. You're not going to talk down to people. You're not going to have unrealistic demands. So really all you have to do is just go there and be yourself, as opposed to the player mentality that's going to try to trick and swindle and lie and manipulate people in order to get what they want. You're genuinely going over there with the type of behavior that should be socially acceptable, which also means that you're not pretending. You don't even have to try. However, you still have to be just a little bit more patient for certain things that would normally piss you off in America because you are trying to win over the family. So, like in America, somebody might step on your shoe and you might beat their ass. In Honduras, somebody might step on your shoe and apologize, and you might have to just dust your shoe off and accept the apology. Show that you're not an unnecessarily confrontational person. That's really all it is. Because if you show job stability and genuine interest in the girl, you have to also show that you're not OJ Simpson. So you're not unnecessarily confrontational. You got to make sure that her family knows that you're not Chris Brown, right? Your decision making skills to negotiate and work things out is effective for maintaining a stable house. Especially if your goal is to take her back to another country. Her family wants to know that when y'all fly out, y'all are going to be like 20, 30,000 miles away from her hometown. And they want to know that she's going to be safe with you. You've got to prove that. It's not, this isn't like what you see in the movies where you got to come and bring a dowry and Aladdin and impress the sultan in order to get the girl. You just got to go there and not be an asshole. It's not asking for much. And then be unnecessarily social. That's not asking for much. And then don't sleep with her hot cousins or any of her hot sisters or any of her hot aunties. That's actually going to be a thing. Also, here's another thing that I didn't even put into the script. If the women are friendly in her family, don't take that as flirting. Take that as acceptance. So don't flirt back. Take it with a kind gesture of thanks. Respond neutrally. That's really all you're doing. Just don't be a dick. This is going to bring us to masculinity because in more traditional cultures, there's often an appreciation for a man who can be a provider and a protector. Now, this isn't about being toxic. It's about being a man of your word, stable, confident, and capable of leading a family. This means that you should know exactly what you want to do and how you want to get it done before you go talk to her about it. This means that things are usually structured and organized before she gets involved so that her family doesn't have to help you fix your problems. This means that when you say you're going to do something and say that you're going to go somewhere and say that you're going to accomplish certain things, that you see that shit through. And even if something beyond your control delays your ability to succeed, you still manage to succeed, even if it's late. But being late is not always going to be acceptable. Late every now and again might be a thing because nobody's perfect, but more often than not, they should be able to set their watch to what you said you were going to do the last time they talked to you. Like, for example, I don't always start the show on time, but I start the show every night. You know that I'm going to be here at some point. That's a man of my word. When I tell you I'm going to put something into the membership, it ends up in the membership. Doesn't always happen the day that I said I was going to do it, but you know that you have found everything in the membership that I said I was going to put in the membership. Being a man of your word is impressing the family. Being organized and structured, creating a script so that I'm ready for the show, so I'm not trying to wing this shit. Organization, leading, being able to stand on which direction the channel is going to go on. These are behavioral traits that work everywhere, not just hanging out with the family. It's just that you have to stand on that when you're with them. They're not looking for a savior. And a lot of women don't need a savior. Even in other countries, when you go to another country to get a woman to bring her back to your home country, she's not looking for a captain to save them. These women got their own careers. They probably taking care of their own families. You got a lot of cultures like Belize and Belarus and Bangladesh, where special shout out to those countries again, where like 90% of the workforce is small business owners that are women. It's a matriarchal society or patriarchal, right? Where the ladies lead the finances, but they also prioritize their husbands, which is what we cannot find in the Western culture. They either prioritize their husbands or they lead the household, not both, right? So your financial stability is going to be a huge plus for them, but it's worthless without character and loyalty. Money alone will only attract the wrong person everywhere you go in the world. And one of the things, which is why I told you don't go get that Benz, uh, one of the things that we do instinctively as men when we're not thinking correctly is we think about flash over stability because we know that if we get the right kind of flash, we will attract more women. However, when we get that kind of flash, the additional women we're attracting are lower valued women that are only there because of the flash. The higher value women that would have been there when there was no flash, the higher quality women that would have been there when you were catching the bus and walking down the street but diligently going to work every day. Those women will not show up just because you've got a Benz. They would have showed up because you've got a stable job, you're taking care of your family, you're going to college, you're going to start up a business when you get out of college, you're working towards that business setup right now. She sees potential, she's going to be there and invest in that because that looks like future success. That's a higher quality woman. But if you start Benz, name brand clothes, name brand shoes, flashy this, flashy that, flashy the other, you're going to find yourself in a situation where Flash will have what we would identify as gold diggers, which is usually broke chicks looking for a higher standard of living than they can afford to provide for themselves. That Flash attracts a different quality of woman that you actually don't want. The same way when women dress provocatively, that type of flash that she does with scantily clad outfits attracts a lower quality man. A man that wants her for her mindset and her skill set, her capabilities, is going to want her when she's fully clothed like a nun or a unsexy librarian, like a politician. You know, Instead of wearing ultra tight clothes, they wear normal clothes. That lack of flash will have a man come to her for all the right reasons. But when you're showing a print in the front and a crack in the back and so much cleavage that's unbelievable, you're going to attract a lot more dudes. It's just that the extra dudes that you're attracting are a lower quality guy that only wants to sleep with you, which is a less favorable position to be in when your goal was to find a long-term suitor, right? This is what people don't think about. So is finding somebody genuine a guaranteed process? Of course not. There will be some cultural understandings and language barriers, especially if you don't speak the language before you get there. It's going to require a lot of patience and a willingness to adapt, which is why I said you're not brown nosing, Steven. You're just not blowing up at the one time that things don't go the way you expect it to go, or you don't understand why they're not doing what you want them to do. They might not be unreasonable, they just might not understand. This path isn't for a tourist looking for flings. This is for a man who is ready to build a family and a future with a partner who shares the same visions as that guy. So let's say that you've done everything you were supposed to do. You moved to Honduras, you're living an incredible life, you've met an amazing woman. How do you make that situation permanent? This is going to be the practical parts that separates the dreamers from the doers. Honduras has several clear pathways to legal residencies. The most common paths for someone with foreign income are going to be the uh, renticia visas for those with independent incomes and the pensionado visas for retirees. That's going to be like your Social Security, disability, your VA benefits, stuff to that effect. Your 401ks, you have income coming in, but you don't actually have a job kind of thing. That's what those are. For these guys, for these types of visas, you must provide a stable monthly income from a source that is not in Honduras. So if you got a brokerage account in America or something like that, that qualifies. Now, historically, the thresholds for Honduras have been somewhere in the range of about $1,500 a month for a pensioner, meaning you have a job, and $2,400, $2,500 a month for a uh, renticia. So if you're bringing in $3,000 a month, either one of these situations, you'd be in there. Now, for the more entrepreneurial individual, there's an investor visa, which generally requires a significant investment into a Honduran business. And for them, a significant investment is far more than what we would consider a significant investment in America. In Honduras, something like $50,000 may be requiring a deposit with a central bank, might be the things that you would need for that investor visa. $50,000 for some people is 1 year's salary, right? That's cheaper than some of the other countries that we talked about in the Cayman Islands that were doing like $250,000, $650,000, $450,000. Buy you a piece of real estate and get your citizenship that way. So I want you to hear clearly: immigration laws, especially the financial requirements, can and do change on a regular basis. The numbers that I just mentioned are going to be based on the latest available information that I was able to find in order to provide you guys with an illustration only to understand that it is in fact possible. But you absolutely must consult with some qualified Honduran immigration lawyers in order to make sure that when you're trying to go over there that you don't have any hiccups or unexpected situations that you weren't prepared for. They're going to give you the most up-to-date advice, and they're going to guide you through the process of getting your documents like birth certificates and background checks properly apostilled and filed, right? So tonight's show is basically just a roadmap, not really like legal advice in order for you to knock this out. I'm kind of giving you guys a heads up as to how to get started on where to look and what to expect so that you can actually have the questions to ask before you go over there, because a lot of the times one of the things that we spend a lot of money on is talking to the person about our dream because we don't have our dream on paper, and then asking a bunch of questions after they've won us over. If you already know what the fuck you want when you get there, you're not dreaming right now, you're trying to apply it. You're going to spend less time with that exact same person because now your question is, what do I got to do to accomplish this? Not, I was thinking about this, I was hoping for this, I was wishing, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, you can do this, you can't do that, you can do this, you can't do that. Well, what can I do? Right? Instead, it's like, well, no, this is exactly what I want to accomplish. And can you make that happen? That's a shorter conversation. But once you have temporary residency, you're on the right path. The time required to apply for citizenship is going to vary depending on how you're trying to get it, but it often is going to be shorter for citizens of other Latin American countries. So for most others, it's typically going to require several years of continuous legal residency if you're trying to go there. Me, myself, I find myself going to another country and then returning with someone else after an extended period of time. So, uh, my vacation, I might take a vacation that might be a few weeks, but when I go to find the extra partner, the extended stay is deliberately designed to allow me to acquire the extra person and then return back. So the dating phase would have the initial understanding on the first two encounters. It's like, yeah, my partner's coming back with me to the States when I fly back. Otherwise, the forward thinking behavior doesn't really work out because who's paying for all of these dates knowing that I'm going to be leaving within a number of months and you're not coming too, right? You got to understand this isn't a fantasy. This is the ability to recognize and understand clear and a lot of times legal, achievable plans to build the types of lives and find the types of partners and secure the type of futures that you would prefer to have in any country around the world. So let's bring it all back together. We've seen $3,000 a month income can provide a life of freedom with paid help in addition to giving you a comfortable Honduras lifestyle. We've explored cultures that still deeply value family, loyalty, and traditional partnerships. And we've laid out a practical step to turn this into a reality. So, interesting question. Is Honduras a perfect paradise for you? No, absolutely not. Let's be very clear. Nothing is perfect. It's going to have its challenges. First, security is going to be a major concern that must be taken seriously. Security meaning safety. While progress has been made, violent crimes is a real issue there, particularly in larger cities. So, more on the outskirts might be better for you. Your lifestyle must be built around safety, choosing secure neighborhoods, avoiding certain areas so that your organs don't get harvested, and being smart about how you travel, especially after dark because not a lot of countries will allow you to take your American firearm with you. And even if they did, those other countries do not have stand your ground laws and self defense laws with the use of firearms. If you bust a cap in somebody in another country, you may not make it back to America. You may have to learn some taekwondo and some jujitsu so that you can beat somebody with a fly swatter instead of pulling the trigger. But you have to be careful with where you go and how you do it. This is not supposed to be an afterthought. This is supposed to be a fundamental part of the life in a country like this. You must foreshadow how to make sure that you're not unnecessarily doing the wrong things in the wrong places. And a lot of the times when you're tempted by unhealthy desire, you will find yourself being lured into a scenario where you might get robbed, a scenario where you might get beat up, a scenario where you might find yourself in a bathtub full of ice, missing one of your kidneys. Furthermore, if you aren't willing to learn Spanish in this particular country, humbly embracing a new culture and putting genuine effort into being a good partner, this is also not going to be for you. You're going to fail here. But for a certain type of man, the man who feels out of place in their modern Western culture who works hard and wants to see the fruits of his labor and not just work until you die situation. A man who wants to build a family where he is respected and valued as a partner, not treated as a simp and a subsidized paycheck. Honduras might just be the answer for you. It's a trade off, but one that could lead to a life of immense fulfillment. So I'm curious to know you guys' thoughts. Does this sound like a pipe dream or a plausible plan for you? Make sure that you guys let me know in the comment section. And for those of you who haven't done so, if you want to see more of what life is really like in places like this or any other country, the good, the bad, and the ugly, make sure that you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified as to when we go live, because every week we cover a different country around the world. And you should be able to follow me along the lines of making yourselves more successful. And then double check the membership because, like I said, every night of the week, we're dropping something extra into the membership to make sure that you guys have everything that you need to be successful, including all of this, the stocks that we're going to be following for the upcoming 2 months, so that you guys can have up to date information on all of the stuff that you need to accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And if there's something that's not in the membership when you go into the membership, reach out and let me know. If it is legally something that you want to acquire that I can do some research on, I'll do what I can and I'll put some extra information into the membership to make sure that you can accomplish the goals that you needed to accomplish. Because a lot of the times, all you needed was a hypothetical another way that could aid you in your ability to accomplish your goals without struggling through the one way that you only know how, because that's what your parents did, that's what your grandparents did, that's what some 70 or 80-year-old person used to do back in the day when that performance was able to be successful. In modern times, that performance is not successful. Advice from the 70s is good faith advice that is no longer applicable in 2026. You need 2026 applicable advice that can aid you in your ability to be successful. And if you get the right advice, it gives you a place to start, not necessarily the directions to perform. So I give you guys a blueprint. I give you step-by-step instructions. I show you who to talk to. If you talk to the right people and ask the right questions, from me, you reach success. But I put all the details into the membership. Now, that's what we've got for today. We're going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And then fellas, I give you this information to make you guys higher value men, not only by increasing your financial life, but also by improving your decision-making skills. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from a male's perspective, you too can make yourself a higher value woman, finding the things in your life that are inside of your control that you don't like and proactively changing them, and then navigating around the things that are outside of your control. Then figuring out what you want for your 20 and 30-year plan. Reverse engineer that's what you need to do today so that you can accomplish those plans. As you are working on your 20 and 30-year plan, you are able to keep your eyes and ears open for the potential suitors with the right personality, characteristics, drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, admiration, and integrity to achieve his goals. And then you got to see if his goals match with your goals. Because, take for example, long-term goal, flying to another country, finding somebody, taking them back. Their long-term goal, being successful, taking care of their family in their culture. That type of long-term doesn't mesh well with one another because one wants to travel and the other one wants to stay still. You guys have to have long-term goals that work together. If you're both willing to travel, you're good. If you're both willing to stay put, you're good. Your long-term goals have to mesh well with one another, but you're looking for long-term satisfaction goals, not short-term gratification goals. And I tell you guys, if you both have similar goals that can play off of one another, they don't have to be in the same field. They don't have to be the exact same thing, but they can piggyback off of one another or benefit one another, or at least not hinder each other. You guys can work on that and knock that out a whole lot faster than doing it by yourself. And I tell you guys, two people can make it to $1 million faster than one, but you got to work together for the same dreams, the same ambitions, the same goals. So with that being said, special shout out to Steven, Michael, OG Kicks, FX Trader, Aztec, Unc Andy. I really appreciate you guys for coming to the show. Joe Jack, I really appreciate that. I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.